Donald Trump appeared in court in New York City today to take the stand at his business fraud trial, and it was a total disaster. Well, today is the day Trump took the stand at his civil fraud trial in New York. As a reminder, the judge has already found Trump liable of fraud, and now damages are being decided on. Specifically, he was found liable for defrauding banks and other financial entities by inflating the value of his assets for, in part, the purposes of getting more favorable loans. And things got really intense in the courtroom. We have so much to discuss. Trump having to be admonished to his face by Judge Arthur Engoron, Trump's lawyer going on an unhinged rant outside the courthouse, Trump himself ranting outside, and Trump being caught either in a lie or just a whole lot of confusion. So stick around for all of it. But before breaking down some of the wild quotes as Trump went nuts on the stand, let me set the scene a little bit. Here was Trump after he sat down in court, just so you can get a sense of how it all looked.
Back to our special live coverage. We're looking right now. This is inside the courtroom. Donald Trump sitting down with his attorneys as we're getting, just consider it kind of like a pool spray. We've seen this in other moments. The cameras are allowed in for a moment to kind of scene set each day in the courtroom. This is Donald Trump, moments before he is set to take the stand and be under oath to take questioning from the judge in this civil fraud trial in New York. As he was entering court just a moment ago, he spoke to the reporters and cameras in the hallway. He attacked the case, he attacked the judge, he attacked the attorney general, and then he made a campaign speech. Now, what happens next could decide his future as a businessman, the future of his empire, business empire, also impact his presidential aspirations and the other criminal cases where he is a defendant in.
Yeah, again. So looking very grumpy. By the way, really, Republicans, this is your guy? The twice impeached, 4 times indicted guy who was found civilly liable for sexual abuse and business fraud? That's your guy? Wild. Then one more clip to set the scene before getting into the details of Trump's testimony. Here was Letitia James before Trump's testimony.
Misrepresented and inflated the value of his assets. And before he takes the stand, I am certain that he will engage in name calling and taunts and race baiting and call this a witch hunt. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters are the facts and the numbers. And numbers, my friends, don't lie. Thank you.
Now let's dive into some of what took place once Trump took the stand. Things fell apart very, very fast. The Guardian reports Judge Arthur Engoron, who Donald Trump has repeatedly bashed as a political operative, and other smears along those lines, threatened to throw him off the witness stand for not answering questions succinctly. So very quickly, Trump is already being told by the judge that he may have to throw him off the stand because of his behavior. Then more of this reporting. Engoron said to the ex-president's lawyer, Chris Kise, "I beseech you to control him. If you can't, I will. I'll excuse him and draw every negative inference that I can." Not surprisingly, Trump groused, "This is a very unfair trial, and I hope the public is watching." So essentially what was happening is Trump's being the typical unhinged Trump that we all know, going on his normal diatribes and ranting about how he's being treated so unfairly and he's the big victim. And the judge is trying to get it under control, because taking the stand is not your opportunity as the witness to just air your political grievances and rant about whatever you like. Here's more from The Guardian. Trump, in effect, accused Engoron, who determined the ex-president's real estate valuations were fraudulent, of being a fraud. Quote, "The fraud is on behalf of the court," Trump ranted. "He says that I'm a fraud. He's the one that didn't value property correctly." He also told Engoron, "You're wrong." You know, it's quite the strategy for Trump to be taking. Call the judge a fraud. I'll definitely help you when the judge gets to decide on the case. This is, as a reminder, a non-jury trial, so the judge is the one with all the power in the situation. Ranting about him being the real fraud, as a non-lawyer, to me, seems like not the best approach in a situation like this. But here was a discussion on CNN where the point is made that in part, this actually could be the strategy, trying to bait the judge into doing something over the top in response to Trump's behavior, and that could assist potentially in an appeal later on.
This now, Ellie Hodig, CNN senior legal analyst and former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. Also with us, former Manhattan prosecutor Jeremy Salan. And gentlemen, I mentioned when I was talking to our reporters before that there has been some speculation that with Trump, when he gets on the stand in a few minutes, he will go in there and try to blow things up. And by that, I mean just derail the trial, go after the judge, go after the clerk. The reason being, and this is a quote from Alan Dershowitz in a Rolling Stone article, Dersh says, quote, when a defendant honestly believes he can't possibly get a fair trial from the judge, one of the tactics is to antagonize the judge, I think we have a graphic of this, to the point of causing reversible errors. In other words, go after the judge, taunt the judge, draw the judge into doing something that will hurt the case going forward.
You normally would never say poke the bear of the judge, that the ramifications can be quite serious. But when you're looking in this situation, it's a potentially a double win for Donald Trump. And what I mean by that is you have his court of public opinion, which we know that's where he's going with regularity. It's a campaign fundraising opportunity and galvanize the masses. But when you already have, to a certain extent and a large extent, lost, because there's already been a ruling by the judge as to this fraud, then this is the opportunity to say, I'm going to push that judge to a point where he or she, and in this case, Judge Engoron, may do something inappropriate that results in an error, reversal error. So yes, you're setting up an appeal potentially.
Now, as proof of either Trump's brain glitching at one moment or getting caught in a lie, Newsweek reports on this. Asked about whether he was involved in the 2021 valuations of his properties, Trump defended himself by telling prosecutor Kevin Wallace, quote, I was so busy in the White House, my threshold was China, Russia, and keeping our country safe. Wallace followed up by asking, just to clarify, you weren't president in 2021, correct? To which Trump replied, no, I wasn't. So then, what's your actual response to the question, Donald? Because he's saying he wasn't a part of the valuation because he was president during that time, but then he wasn't president in 2021. So then what's your updated response to the question that was just asked? I do think it's abundantly clear that Trump has no hope with this trial. He lost already on the biggest claim, as I mentioned, being brought by the AG's lawsuit. And maybe he's just hoping for an effective appeal. Honestly, I don't know. His behavior has been pretty stunning. And his behavior throughout this entire process has just been contrary, at least in my observation, to what you'd expect from someone trying to get the best outcome for themselves and their business. And I think it comes down to him knowing that the evidence being brought forward by Letitia James is 100% accurate and proof of the fraud that she's accusing him of. Then here was Trump at the end, leaving the courtroom and getting asked how to go.
I think it went very well. I think you were there and you listened and you see what scam this is. This is a case that should have never been brought. It's a case that should be dismissed immediately. The fraud was on behalf of the court. The court was the fraudster in this case. They made references to assets that were very valuable, and they said they had no idea. They had no idea what the numbers were when they said $18 million for Mar-a-Lago. And it's 50 to 100 times that amount by any estimation.
He keeps complaining about the valuation of Mar-a-Lago and says it's actually worth 100 times. It's $1.5 billion. And the valuation of prosecutors is incorrect. But as I previously covered, his own realtor signed off on the valuation that the prosecutors are referencing. So take it up with him, I guess, Donald. And then here was Trump's lawyer, Alina Abba, delivering a pretty wild rant outside the courthouse.
Listen.
More honest, coming from the judge who has already predetermined that my client committed fraud before we even walked into this courtroom. I'm not here to hear what he has to say. Then why exactly am I being paid as an attorney, and why exactly are taxpayer dollars being used in this courtroom? The answer is very clear. Because Miss James wants to stand right here like she did this morning and call my client a liar, call the company fraudulent, and make a name for herself. She said this morning that the numbers don't lie and they won't lie in this case. Well, Miss James, I have a message for you. The numbers didn't lie when you ran for governor, and that's why you dropped out. And the numbers don't lie when President Trump runs for office in 2024. And those numbers are loud and clear. This country is falling apart.
The fact that she makes it about Trump's run for president and the country falling apart shows how little of an argument she has. Explain why the specific allegations against Trump in this lawsuit aren't accurate. That's the only thing at issue here. Whether or not he's going to win in 2024 is irrelevant to the accusations that he engaged in business fraud. But that appears to be, across all of Trump's legal troubles, as we keep coming back to, the thing that his allies and supporters just really can't comprehend. That maybe the law isn't treating Trump as this special person, as a former president, political figure, presidential candidate, but just as any other person, which, by the way, in many ways, he's being treated better than any other person. But it enrages those who support him that the law could apply to him in the ways that it currently is. You aren't allowed to engage in fraudulent business practices. I hate to tell you, MAGA, but that's just the way that the law at least is supposed to work. So now, even though his last name is Trump, Donnie's having to deal with the repercussions of his actions. Before we go, don't forget to become a member at lukebeasleyshow.com/membership to get access to the daily bonus show, an entire bonus show Monday through Friday. Well, we'll see about this Monday because I'm sick as a dog, if you can hear it in my voice, my goodness. But usually Monday through Friday. Plus follow me on Threads at Luke Beasley Official, Instagram at Luke Beasley Official, X at Luke P. Beasley, and sign up for the Beasley Brief, a daily morning newsletter that summarizes the previous day's events by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/brief. And I'll talk to you next time.